Hello, how are we? So I am ready to finally give you my face in this vlog. So I've got some things to chat with you about. So first up, I'm almost finished with Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Now this is one that I have been wanting to read since I heard about it. This book is intense. This book is beautiful. This book is everything I wanted it to be and more. So if you're looking for a Greek mythology retelling and you have not tried Ariadne yet, I definitely would. Do know this is a tragedy. We don't have any sort of spin as far as I can tell. I mean, I still have like a half an hour left of listening, so it might do a final spin, but I don't see that happening. So just know that Ariadne lived a very tough life, and Jennifer Saint really did a lot to try to redeem her, kind of like Natalie Haynes does when she's writing Greek mythologies. It's a very similar kind of thing. It makes me more excited to pick up Electra now, which I do own. So again, very, very excited about that. And then audio-wise, I'm not sure what my next audio is going to be, but Ariadne is almost done. Physically, I'm not reading an actual book other than A Soul to Heal by Opal Rain. I was doing a buddy read with Lindsay of the Finley Donovan book, but it was just too much for me. I had to stop. It's too over the top. It's too bonkers now. I'm learning that when it comes to cozy mysteries, I tend to only like book one. After that, they're a little too over the top for me. So that's just something I'm learning about myself. So I've read the first 8 chapters of A Soul to Heal so far. I can definitely understand why people don't love this one as much as they love A Soul to Keep. My goal is to get through chapter 16 today if I can. My battery's gonna die, so I'll talk about the manga with you in a sec. Okay, so let's talk about the manga that I've read. I am doing another volume 1 vlog, so I'm just going to briefly show you what these things are. So I read the 2 books that I'd ordered from Glacier Bay Books. These are stunning, by the way. So I have Fall Stars, Red Riding Hood's Wolf Apprentice by Sayaka Mogi. And then we've got Red Riding Hood's Wolf Apprentice, Final Testament to the Moon, Volume 1 by Sayaka Mogi. These are expensive. Like, this one was $8, and this one I think was like 12 or 13. And they're very, very short. But to me, to support an indie publisher, it was worth the money. So I'm not mad that I spent this money. These were amazing. I cannot wait for more. I want more Sayaka Mogi art. I'm going to go see if there's anything else that they have in English, and I'm going to track that down. That's all I'm going to say. I did also finally get around to reading and picking up Is Love the Answer? I'll talk about this more in the Volume 1 vlog. And then I also read My Secret Affection. Again, that will be in that vlog. As will Boy's Abyss, along with its triggers. So just know that I do talk about those extensively in that vlog. That'll be coming probably before you see this one. So that's where I'm at currently with my reading. I'm really happy with where I'm headed and where I'm going. The Yona live show was great. We did have to push it back a few days just because it didn't work out for anybody on the Sunday we would normally do it. So we did it last night. Today's the 20th, so we did it the night of the 19th. You can watch that back. Oh, I did also read volume 18 of One Piece and loved it. I'm going to keep moving on to 19 and 20 today. And then I'm hoping, as I said, to read a bunch in A Soul to Heal. But I do also work tonight, so we're going to see how that goes, and I will let you guys know more later. So let's update this vlog. Manga-wise, all I've really been reading is One Piece, and then I'm currently in the middle of filming a volume 1 vlog, so I'm not going to talk too much about any of those, which is why I thought it would be okay to update in the car, because I don't need to physically hold them up. I'm doing that in the other video. Honestly, today's the 27th. I've not been reading that much lately, if I'm honest with myself. And honestly, that's okay. I have read so much already this year that I do not feel bad slowing down my reading at all. This is something that I wanted to... When I did my quarterly check-in, I realized I wasn't slowing down like I hoped to. So that's what's kind of been happening, and I'm good with it, honestly. I've really been enjoying my reads, and I'm pretty sure I've talked to you about most of what I've read. I have some things that like I started and I DNF'd just because I wasn't feeling it. Though there are way too many books in the world that I want to read that I'm not going to waste my time on books that I don't want to read. So I believe I've only completed 1 novel since we last chatted, maybe 2. But yeah, I'm only going to talk about the 1 because that's the only one I can guarantee. I'll have to go back and look at clips. If I forgot one, I will insert it here, and then we'll cut back to me now to talk about this one. So when it comes to what I've read most recently, yesterday I finished on some live sprints doing productivity, doing content and stuff, because, you know, I even took a week off of content. So I've just been kind of giving myself some grace and some space this month. Work has been a lot. Some of my responsibilities shifted around and changed. So I just let myself kind of process that, which is why I haven't been reading quite as much. Oh, yes, I did finish Ariadne. Still loved it. I had like 50 pages or something left when we last chatted. But yes, very, very good. Really, really loved it. Very excited to get around to reading Electra, which is the other book by them that I have. And I did also pick up Atalanta, which is their most recent one that like just came out a couple weeks ago. Part of me is pretty sure it's going to end up on the Goodreads Choice Award nominees. So that's why I wanted to pick it up early, because this is a less common, less popular Greek mythology retelling. So that's why I think it's going to hit the list, because it's not one we've heard 100 times. But anyhow, that's not a discussion for today. So I read and finished Travis by Mia Sheridan. Bloom kindly sent this to me. Thank you, Bloom. You really are too good to me. So not only did I read it physically, I did this one as a blended read. I do have Audible Plus, so I was able to check out the audiobook. And there have been some small editing changes, nothing too major. The one I'm currently reading has more, and I'll talk about that when I get there. When it comes to Travis, I knew going in that this one was going to be a harder sell than Archer's Voice for me, because Travis was essentially one of the bad guys and bullies in Archer's Voice, and he really did some awful and cruel things to Archer. I mean, we gain the understanding as to why by the end of Archer's Voice, but it still doesn't really excuse Travis's behavior. One thing that I think this book, what did this book a favor, is that there was 8 years from the end of Archer's Voice to when Travis starts. So I feel like in those 8 years, you can see that Travis genuinely changed. He didn't just, change on the surface and go back to his old self. Like, he realized he was a jerk. He still has some jerk kind of tendencies, I guess you could say. So he's not going to be the easiest hero to love, which I think is it's going to be the hardest part of this book for people. But Haven, the girl who ends up spending the summer there with a temp job, she's originally from California, but her and her brother have been living and nomading across the country for the last 2 years and have ended up in Maine, where this book takes place. And they're running away from a lot in their life. They didn't really get therapy for some of their trauma that they experienced before they left California. And so Haven does everything she can to save plants. She's a total California plant girl, and I love her for it. But how they meet is actually really funny, because she is just saved a bunch of these plants from the only nursery in town, and they looked bad. And like, she was driving and there were so many plants in her car she legit couldn't see. So Travis, he's the chief of police in this small town. And yes, that's another hard selling point on this book. I mean, in the year of our Lord 2023, we shouldn't necessarily be writing these kinds of heroes, but that was his profession when Archer's Voice ended. So in a small town like that, it makes sense to keep it. And it also helps that Travis is now living a more humble means than he used to. And that was a big part of why he was such a jerk in Archer's Voice. But anyways, I don't need to keep comparing the two books. They are different books. And you do see Archer and Bree and their brood, and I love them, and it's good to see them. They don't overtake the novel, but they're present enough that it makes sense that you can see that Travis has made amends with Archer and with Bree, because he was pretty awful to Bree at points as well. And it was really a well done story. And I do think that Travis's changes are believable and that he has grown as a human since the end of Archer's Voice. And basically, he'd been in a long-term relationship. They'd been together like 10 months. And then he walks in on his girlfriend cheating on him in their bed, which isn't a trope I necessarily love, but at the same time, I think Travis needed that because it helped him gain perspective on how he was living his life before he met Haven. And that adds to their dynamic and the believability of their relationship, because you have the stark contrast of the previous girlfriend with Haven. And I ended up really enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. It's a very solid romance. Is it a new favorite? Is it a new Archer's Voice? No. But I also didn't expect it to be. And I don't think it would be fair to compare them in that way, I guess you could say. And I really just enjoyed my time with the book. The narration was good. And I really just enjoyed my time back in this little small town. They've set up another couple potential love interests. So I would love to see if she decides to explore them. Haven's brother would be an interesting one to follow. And the other town hunk that is kind of, the pretty boy with the money that Travis used to be, Gage. I think it would be interesting to get his love story as well, because he mentioned multiple times that he's kind of feeling ready to settle down and, not necessarily just be a playboy anymore. He wants to settle down and settle into life. And so I think it would be really interesting to get his story as well as Easton, the brothers, because Easton had it rough like Haven did, but he also acted out and made some really crappy decisions that affected Haven along the way. So I think it would be really interesting to get his love story and what ends up coming of it. There is a potential love interest for him, but I kind of don't want to see that. I would love to see someone else. I like the idea of someone new coming into this small town and trying to get welcomed into the community and then falling in love along the way. I like those kinds of small town stories, so that would be my preference to see. But he's also not from town, and if he kind of got together with someone from town, that could be very interesting as well. So there are options here. I would really love to see what they decide to do. But yes, so that's all I'm going to say about Travis. I've been talking about Travis for quite a while now. Hi friends, so I'm here to round out this vlog. So from the last clip where you saw me, I was in the car and I had just finished talking to you about Travis. Now, I've read 4 books since then, 2 physical that I did a blended audio physical read of, and then 2 ebooks that I read because I had insomnia, so they got read. So let's talk about the physical ones first, because Bloom kindly sent me the first 2 books in B. Celeste's Linden U series. Now, if you remember, I didn't get along with Under the Sycamore Tree very well. It wasn't the writing at all, it was just the tropes. They weren't my tropes, I wasn't enjoying it, and I didn't think I'd give it a good rating, so I opted out of giving it a rating and just kind of left that one alone. But the Linden U series is a sports romance, so if you're looking for college-age sports romances, I do think this one's going to be a solid series. In this first book, we're following 2 childhood friends. They're Aiden and Ivy. Their names are right here on the cover to make life easy for me. So Aiden and Ivy were neighbors growing up, and Ivy's home life was a mess. Her parents were not happy, and that got taken out on her quite a bit. And she protected her younger brother from a lot of things, even though she had a lot of resentment towards the preferential treatment that the brother got. And it got to a point where she ran away from home at 16 and was on her own for a very long time and went through a lot of really rough things being on her own. And the last thing she expected was to run into Aiden at Linden U. She thought he'd gone to another school. That was the last thing she'd heard. And so they start to get reacquainted at school. Things are rough. Things are messy. And there's a lot of pent-up frustration and anger between the 2 of them that they take the time to work through. Aiden is he's very much an alpha in this one. He wants to brute force take care of her, but he does respect and listen to her when she says no, for the most part. There are a few instances where he's a little forceful, and so that wasn't my favorite thing to read, just because I don't see that behavior necessarily changing once they're older. So that's my concern there. But when it comes down to it, he really does worship the ground she walks on. I'm going to put out a trigger warning here. It is in the first chapter, so I feel safe giving it. And that is suicide and suicide ideation and cutting. Those are 3 very big things in this novel. It's not graphically depicted on page, but it's alluded to enough and spoken about openly enough that I do think the trigger is warranted. Now, I do appreciate that right in the beginning, she does have a trigger warning page. So you can go ahead and look at that. I do think it's a little general, but it's bold enough. And the fact that it's in the front of the book, you know it's going to be spoken about often. So I do appreciate that they did that. But I'm going to give this one a solid 4. I think it's a good romance. It's not a new favorite, but it didn't turn me off from B. Celeste. I think it was just Under the Sycamore Tree was just not my tropes. So I really enjoyed Dare You to Hate Me, which is Aiden and Ivy's story. And then I did immediately start into Beg You to Trust Me, which features Danny, or DJ from the first book, and Skylar, which is someone that you don't meet until this book. Now, I'm going to put another trigger out there. In these, you're going to be dealing with some tough things. So in this one, our heroine, she is 18, just got to college. She goes to a party with her roommates, wakes up the next morning not remembering anything in somebody's bed at the football house. And so that's the first time she sees Danny. And Danny is very much like a jokester, and you get that from the first book. So considering that she lost her virginity in the experience that was had at the football house, she obviously got a bad taste in her mouth for Danny. And so when Danny tries to approach her and talk to her, he puts his foot in his mouth constantly, and things don't go well. But they build a beautiful friendship. He's much more of a beta hero. He can be alpha when she wants that. In the best sense, she's the one in the driver's seat, and he's along for the ride. And he's nuts about her. He's been very patient with her. I really adored Danny so much more in this book. I wasn't sure about him in Dare You to Hate Me. But in Beg You to Trust Me, Danny is much more my kind of hero. So I really adore Danny. So even if you don't get along with the first book very well, or they're not your tropes, or the trigger is bad, I wouldn't give up on the series. I would try Beg You to Trust Me. They're very different. This one does have the trigger warning about what happens. I'm going to read it to you. This book deals with bullying, harassment, and heavy topics such as assault on college campuses. Basically, that night didn't just take her virginity. It gave her something back. And that's kind of a big thing in this book as well. So, anyhow, I would recommend these. Just know that they are going to be heavier romances. So if you're looking for something a little heavier in what it's dealing with, these will be a good fit. I did also read a couple of volume 1s, but again, you're getting a dedicated video with all of those. But let's talk about the other two. So the first one is going to be Bluebeard's Curse. This is by Regine Abel. This is one that dropped just in April. This is a loose Bluebeard retelling from what I can gather. So essentially our heroine is picked out to be the 27th or 28th bride of this king because there is a certain curse upon him and people need, like, he has to be married and he can't go more than 90 days without being married because of this curse. And because of that, the bride that he chooses has a year to break this curse. And so this is the journey of the curse breaking and the person who is strong enough to do it. And it's amazing. I loved everything about this. It's a little over 200 pages. I read it all in a night. And I would definitely recommend picking this one up. You guys know I love Regine Abel. But this just lets me know that I like her standalones just as well as I like her series. So I know she has a few other standalones out there that I definitely want to check out. So I'm going to definitely see what's going on with those. The other one that I ended up reading is The Half-Orc's Maiden Bride by Ruby Dixon. Because I couldn't sleep. So I tried watching videos and that didn't work. I tried just laying in the dark and that didn't work. So I started reading. And this is one that I had started. I've had it from KU for a bit. And I had a great time with this. Like, I just like Ruby Dixon. I like what she does. Yes, it's campy, but it's the best kind of camp for me. And this one was no exception. In this one, essentially, this tall, curvy, leggy woman keeps getting passed over because she's not dainty and petite like all the other beautiful women in society. So her father, because he's poor, marries her off to this half-orc man who bought her, paid a hefty bride price for her, and then they are more like kindred souls than anything. Like, they really are the perfect fit together, and it's adorable to watch them. But her dad's jerk, and it tries to, like, find a way to, like, use his daughter to ransom her new husband. Like, he's a jerk. We don't like him. But I really like Agakor, I think is how you would say his name, and Lanthe. Like, they were a really cute couple. I really loved them. So that is the end of this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you're here because you love me, leave me your favorite drink-related emoji, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
It's been raining for days now, been running like a child. Can't feel the cold, well, I'm lost here with you, lost in the woods. Lost as I should.